I always thought I was a good husband. For 7 years, I gave Amanda everything I had. My love, my time, my dedication. We built what I believed was a happy life together. Then one night, after another attempt to connect with her, she looked me in the eyes and said those words I will never forget. Not tonight or any night, Sean. I am just not interested anymore. Little did I know, this rejection would lead me to completely transform my life. Before I tell you how I turned this painful rejection into the best decision of my life, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to rebuild yourself after heartbreak. I am 34 years old and work as a software developer in Seattle. My life before all this happened was what most would consider successful. I had a good-paying job at a tech company, a nice apartment downtown, and what I thought was a loving marriage with my college sweetheart. Amanda and I met during our junior year at University of Washington. We both attended the same computer science lecture. I noticed her immediately. She had this bright smile and an infectious laugh that caught my attention from across the room. One day, I finally worked up the courage to sit next to her and strike up a conversation about the assignment we had been struggling with. We ended up studying together at a nearby coffee shop, talking for hours about everything from coding to our favorite books and movies. Our connection was instant and deep. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. She understood my passion for technology, and I admired her creative approach to problem solving. We complemented each other perfectly. After graduation, we both landed jobs in Seattle and moved in together. 2 years later, I proposed during a hiking trip to Mount Rainier, her favorite place in the world. Our wedding was beautiful. It was a small ceremony with just close friends and family at a rustic venue overlooking Lake Washington. Amanda looked breathtaking in her simple white dress, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive as we said our vows. The first 3 years of our marriage were blissful. We traveled. We built our careers. We talked about starting a family someday. I worked hard to be a good provider. Often I would take on extra projects at work, putting in overtime to make sure we were financially secure. We were saving for a house in a nice neighborhood, planning for our future together. I wanted to give Amanda everything she deserved. Looking back now, I can see that things started to change gradually in ways so subtle I missed the signs. Amanda began spending more time on her phone, quickly turning it face down whenever I entered the room. She started working later, claiming her design team had tight deadlines. When I would ask about her day, her answers became vague and short. Still, I believed we were just going through a phase. All marriages have their ups and downs, right? So I planned a romantic weekend getaway to the Oregon coast, booking a charming bed and breakfast with an ocean view. I thought it would help us reconnect, reignite the spark that seemed to be fading. The night before our trip, I prepared a special dinner at home. Candles, her favorite pasta dish, the expensive wine we had been saving. I wanted to set the mood for our weekend away. When Amanda came home, she seemed distracted. She barely touched her food and kept checking her phone under the table. After dinner, I suggested we should go to bed early since we had an early start the next day. I reached for her hand, hoping to lead her to our bedroom, but she pulled away. That was the first time she said those words. "Not tonight, Sean. I am tired from work." I tried to be understanding. Everyone gets tired. Everyone has off days. I gave her space, telling myself not to overthink it. But over the next few weeks, a pattern emerged. Every time I initiated intimacy, there was always an excuse. Too tired. Not feeling well. Early meeting tomorrow. Headache. I started bringing home flowers, planning date nights at her favorite restaurants, sending her sweet texts during the day. Nothing seemed to make a difference. Each attempt was met with the same indifference, the same distance. Then came the night that changed everything. After another rejected advance, I asked her directly if something was wrong, if there was anything I could do better. That is when she looked at me with cold eyes and said, "Not tonight, or any night, Sean. I am just not interested anymore." Those words cut through me like a knife. That night, I slept in our guest room for the first time, staring at the ceiling, wondering what had happened to us. The next morning, I tried to talk to her about it. I asked if we could discuss what she meant, if there was something we could work on together. Her response was a casual shrug as she grabbed her coffee and said she would be late for work. I spent the next few days in a fog questioning everything about myself. Was I not attractive anymore? Had I become boring? Was I too focused on work? Had I neglected her emotional needs? The self-doubt was crushing. The woman I loved, the person I had built my life around, was slipping away, and I had no idea how to stop it. Desperate for answers, I started researching marriage problems online. I read articles, forums, even relationship books. I was determined to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. Based on what I read, I thought maybe I had let myself go a bit. So I got a new haircut, started hitting the gym 3 times a week, bought some new clothes. I wanted to show Amanda I was making an effort. But no matter what I did, Amanda seemed completely indifferent. She barely noticed my new appearance or the efforts I was making. Instead, she spent more and more time on her phone, smiling at texts that were not from me. When I would come home from work, she would either be working late or already asleep. We were living separate lives under the same roof. After a particularly lonely weekend where we barely spoke 2 words to each other, I suggested marriage counseling. I thought having a professional mediator might help us communicate better. Amanda immediately rejected the idea, saying there was nothing wrong with her. So why would she need therapy? The implication that the problem was entirely with me stung deeply. As weeks passed, Amanda started working even later hours. There were nights she did not come home until after 10 p.m., claiming her team had project deadlines. Curious and increasingly suspicious, I checked our credit card statements and found charges from restaurants on evenings she claimed to be at the office. When I carefully brought up these discrepancies, Amanda became defensive and angry. How dare I check up on her? Did I not trust her? Was I spying on her now? She turned it around on me so quickly that I found myself apologizing, even though I was the one with legitimate concerns. My emotional state began to deteriorate rapidly. I could not sleep. I lost my appetite. My work performance suffered as I sat at my desk, unable to focus on code, my mind constantly replaying conversations and searching for clues about what was happening to my marriage. One day, a colleague named David noticed I had been staring at the same line of code for 30 minutes. He invited me to lunch, and away from the office, asked if everything was okay. I surprised myself by opening up to him. I told him about Amanda, about her rejection, about my increasing suspicions and deepening depression. David listened patiently, then shared some wisdom from his own divorce years earlier. What stuck with me was his comment about self-worth. He said, "The worst thing you can do is tie your entire value to someone else, is validation. If they withdraw it, you are left with nothing." His words resonated with me, but I was not ready to accept the implications for my marriage. I still believed I could fix things if I just tried harder, if I just understood what was happening. Then came the text messages. Amanda had left her phone unlocked while she took a shower. I had never snooped before, but desperation drove me to pick it up. What I found was a lengthy text exchange with someone named Jackson, a coworker I had heard mentioned casually, but never met. The messages were not explicitly romantic, but they had an intimacy and playfulness that Amanda and I had not shared in months. I did not confront her immediately. Part of me wanted more evidence, and part of me was simply too afraid of what the confrontation would reveal. Instead, I became more attentive to patterns. I noticed how she would smile when certain texts came in. I heard her laughing on the phone in our spare room late at night, the same kind of unrestrained laughter that had drawn me to her in college. The final piece fell into place when Amanda mentioned a women-only work event one Friday evening. She made a point of describing how it was a special networking opportunity just for the female employees. But the following Monday, while grabbing her laptop for her, I saw a notification on her screen. It was a photo tag on social media from the event she had just at my office. There, with his arm casually draped over her shoulder, was a man I did not recognize, but whose name in the caption was unmistakable Jackson. That night, when Amanda came home, I finally confronted her with what I knew. At first, she tried to deny everything, but when I mentioned the photo, her demeanor changed. She admitted she was emotionally involved with Jackson, but tried to blame me. According to her, I had been distant, too focused on work, not emotionally available. She claimed she had tried to tell me many times that she was unhappy, but I never listened. I was stunned. In my mind, I had been doing everything to save our marriage, while she had been building a connection with someone else. That night, after Amanda went to bed without resolving anything, I sat alone in our living room until sunrise, feeling my world collapse around me. The next day, I went through the motions at work, unable to concentrate on anything. During lunch break, I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring blankly ahead, contemplating what my life had become and where it was heading. I had poured 7 years of love, dedication, and effort into a relationship that now felt like a hollow shell. My entire identity had become wrapped up in being Amanda's husband, and now that foundation was crumbling. As I sat there, someone knocked on my window. It was Thomas, an old friend from college who had recently joined my company. I had been avoiding social interactions lately, but something about his concerned expression made me roll down the window. He took one look at me and said, "You look like you are carrying the weight of the world, man. Want to grab a coffee?" Over coffee, Thomas listened as I unloaded the whole story. What surprised me was his nodding recognition. He had gone through a painful divorce 3 years earlier and understood exactly what I was experiencing. But what really caught my attention was how content and balanced he seemed now. I asked him how he had managed to rebuild his life. His answer changed everything for me. He said, "When Sarah left, I realized I had made her the center of my universe. Every decision, every plan revolved around her. When she was gone, I had no center left, so I had to become my own center again. I had to remember who I was before her and then discover who I could become without her." Something clicked in that moment. I had been pouring all my time, attention, and resources into trying to save a relationship with someone who clearly did not value what we had built together. I had been trying to fix something that perhaps could not be fixed, at least not by me alone. That evening, instead of going home right away, I stopped at a local bank and opened a separate checking account. The next day, I adjusted my direct deposit to split my paycheck between our joint account and my new personal account. I was not planning to abandon my financial responsibilities, but I needed to create some independence. I converted our rarely used guest room into a home gym, ordering a set of dumbbells, a bench, and a yoga mat. Every morning, I started waking up at 6 a.m. to exercise for an hour before work. The physical exertion helped clear my mind and gave me a sense of accomplishment that had nothing to do with Amanda. I also enrolled in an advanced coding boot camp that met Tuesday and Thursday evenings. It was something I had been interested in for years, but had put off because Amanda had always complained that I already worked too much. Now I saw it as an investment in my skills and future. When Amanda noticed these changes, she seemed confused and somewhat annoyed. The first time I told her I could not watch a show with her because I had my coding class, she looked genuinely surprised. She had grown accustomed to me always being available whenever she deigned to give me her attention. 2 weeks into my new routine, Amanda suddenly suggested we go out for dinner on a Thursday night. It was the first time in months she had initiated spending time together, but it was also the night of an important workshop in my boot camp. For the first time in our relationship, I declined her invitation, explaining I had already committed to the class and could not miss it. The look on her face was a mixture of shock and irritation. She was not used to me prioritizing anything above her, but instead of feeling guilty, I felt a small sense of empowerment. I was reclaiming my time and making choices based on my own goals and needs. I also started a weekend hiking club through a local outdoor enthusiasts meetup group. Every Saturday morning, I would lead a group of strangers turned friends on trails around Seattle. The fresh air, exercise, and new social connections were incredibly healing. I started to remember parts of myself that had been dormant during my years of focusing exclusively on my marriage. 3 months into my new routine, I finally had the conversation with Amanda that I had been avoiding. I calmly told her I knew about Jackson, that I understood our marriage was in serious trouble, and that we had 2 options: commit to marriage counseling together or begin discussing a separation. Amanda reacted with anger, accusing me of giving up on us just when she was trying to reconnect. It was a stunning display of revisionist history that ignored her months of rejection and emotional affair. But this time, I did not back down or accept blame that was not mine. I stood my ground, explaining that I still cared for her, but would no longer accept being devalued or deceived. I told her, I have spent months trying to win back your interest and affection while you were investing your emotional energy elsewhere. I deserve better than that. We both do. Either we commit to rebuilding this marriage honestly, or we need to accept that it might be time to move on. The following weekend, Amanda packed a suitcase and told me she needed space to think about things. She moved temporarily into a friend's apartment. Though I had essentially suggested this outcome, watching her leave our home was still deeply painful. 7 years of shared history does not disappear overnight regardless of how things ended. But I continued focusing on my self-improvement journey. I maintained my morning workout routine, excelled in my coding bootcamp, and expanded my hiking group. I found myself looking forward to these activities rather than viewing them as mere distractions from my marital problems. At work, my renewed focus and enhanced skills from the bootcamp caught my manager's attention. 6 months after that pivotal conversation with Thomas, I was offered a promotion to senior developer with a significant salary increase. The professional recognition validated the changes I had been making in my life. Beyond work and exercise, I discovered new hobbies that brought me joy. I joined a local photography club, something I had been interested in during college but had abandoned. I started cooking elaborate meals for myself instead of just microwaving whatever was fastest. I even adopted a dog from a local shelter, a loyal German Shepherd mix named Max, who became my faithful hiking companion. These new activities brought new friendships into my life. People who knew me not as half of Sean and Amanda, but simply as Sean the hiker, the photographer, the dog lover. These connections were refreshingly uncomplicated and supportive. 4 months into our separation, Amanda reached out and asked to meet for coffee. When I saw her at the cafe, I was surprised by my emotional response. I still cared for her, but the desperate need to win her approval had faded considerably. She told me things had not worked out with Jackson. He had been excited about the forbidden thrill of an affair, but became distant when she actually became available. She suggested that perhaps we could try again, that maybe our time apart had given us perspective. A year earlier, I would have jumped at this opportunity. I would have seen it as everything I had been working and hoping for. But sitting across from her that day, I realized something important. I deserved someone who saw me as their first choice, not as a safe backup plan. I told Amanda I would always care about her and the years we had shared, but I had come to understand that we both deserved a fresh start. I suggested we proceed with divorce proceedings as amicably as possible. To my surprise, she agreed without much resistance. Perhaps she too realized that what had broken between us could not be easily repaired. We worked with a mediator to divide our assets fairly, and 6 months later, our divorce was finalized. During this period, I met Natalie at one of my hiking events. She was new to Seattle, an environmental scientist with a wry sense of humor and a passion for conservation. Unlike my rushed relationship with Amanda, Natalie and I built a friendship first. We hiked together, volunteered at the same dog shelter, and gradually came to know each other without romantic pressure. When Natalie eventually expressed interest in dating, I was hesitant. I explained my recent divorce and the work I was still doing on myself. Rather than being put off, she appreciated my honesty and suggested we take things slow with clear boundaries and open communication. Our relationship developed organically over the following months. Unlike my marriage, where I had made Amanda the center of my universe, Natalie and I maintained healthy independence alongside our connection. We had our own friends, hobbies, and goals coming together as equals rather than one person orbiting the other. Looking back now, over a year since Amanda first uttered those rejecting words, I can honestly say that redirecting my time, attention, and resources toward myself was the best decision I ever made. The painful rejection that felt like an ending was actually the beginning of a more authentic life. I learned that tying your self-worth to another person is a recipe for unhappiness. I learned that sometimes relationships end not because you failed, but because they have served their purpose in your journey. Most importantly, I learned that losing what you desperately thought you wanted can sometimes lead you to finding what you truly need. So if you are going through something similar right now, remember, this rejection can be protection. It can be the universe clearing space for something better aligned with who you are becoming. The end of one chapter is always the beginning of another. I would love to hear your stories of transformation in the comments below. Have you ever had a painful experience that ultimately led to positive change? How did you rebuild yourself after heartbreak? And if you found this story helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more authentic life experiences. Share this with someone who might need to hear that there is life and even love after rejection. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.